Good day. My name is Daniel and I'll be your instructor for today's lesson. Today in Delphi, we're going through strings. We're going to try and go through all the methods and functions that you typically need to use whenever you're solving Delphi problems in examinations and assignments and tests. Okay, so first things first, we're going to go through the most common function that you use in Delphi, that is concatenation, right? So basically it's just the connection of two strings. So let's just declare two strings, right? We'll declare SSTR1 and SSTR2. Those are strings. So we're going to write a right line and then we're going to concatenate the two strings, right? Right line, and then we're going to say SSTR1 plus SSTR2. Basically just use a plus sign to concatenate, right? So but we can't run the program just yet because we need to actually initialize these two variables, right? SSTR1, we'll just say that is equals to Romeo, and then SSTR2, we'll just say that is equals to 8 ice cream. There we go. So now right line should have these two sentences or two strings connected together. So let's run that. We run that, and then there we go. Romeo ate ice cream. So it basically just connects the two strings. Nothing out of the ordinary. Okay. We're gonna move on. I'm gonna cancel this. Actually, I'm just gonna leave it here, and then I'm gonna do this. Right line. I'm just gonna have this go all the way there, and then I'm gonna add a concatenation plus s line break. So basically what happens here is that it's just gonna print out this, and then it's gonna go to the next line. Okay, so let me just give you a demonstration. Run, and then there we go. So it just prints out those equal signs and goes to the next line. That'll be good because we want to divide the things that we want to add to this IDE. Okay, so the next method or function is get the length of a string. So how do we get the length of a string? So I'm going to redeclare this string called Romeo. I'm going to paste it here. SSTR1 is Romeo. As you can see, it has 5 characters, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So we want to get the length and we want to print the length to right line. So I could just declare a variable here called slength or ilength, right? And it's an integer, right? Because length will return an integer. So let's say ilength is set to the value of length, and then inside of this function we're going to add in the string. It takes in one argument, which is a string, SSTR1, that is our string, and then this ilength should now be equals to however the length of this string is, and that is 5, right? However, we want to print it, so let's print that first. So we're going to say right line, and then we're going to print an ilength. So but if I do this ilength, this is going to give me problems because it'll tell me that they're not compatible types, because right line takes in a string and ilength is an integer. So we need to typecast. And how do we typecast? We say int to string, and then int to string takes in an integer, which is ilength, like that. You see? Now let's run that, and it runs and we get 5. So 5 is our length of string, so that is good. Let me just write here length. There we go. Let's go to the next line, and now we want to get the position of a substring, right? So let me paste this here. Get a position of a substring. This returns an integer. So let me just get this right line over here so that we can divide. All right, so let's get a position of a substring. So how do you get a position of a substring inside of a string? Basically what I'm trying to say is that, let's say we have SSTR2 here, right? This is SSTR2. Just make it a little bit more readable. So this is 8 ice cream, right? So let's just say 8 ice cream, right? This is our string. Let's say we wanted to get the position of I in this string, and we want to do that dynamically. I mean, we can see just by counting that I is at the position of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Is at the position of 5, but we want to get it programmatically. So how do we do that? We use a function called POS. So how can we do that? Let's just declare a variable called P that will store our position as an integer. So I'll say IP, and that's an integer, right? So IP will be equals to pos, that's the function. And let me just say, when we're here and you press control space, it'll give you the structure or the parameters that need to go into pos being the function. So now you can just see by reading here, you don't need to always memorize what a function takes as arguments. You can just see it right here. It says it takes a substring, which will be the substring. It takes in the string, and then it takes in an offset. So I think we can just use the string and the substring. So what I like to do is I'll make a little comment. So I know that pos takes in substring, and then it takes in the string, right? So now what we can do is that we can pass in the substring, which is I, and then the actual string is SSTR2, right? We could have also just passed in the string directly here, but we already have the string declared over here, so we don't need to do that. So let's run that, and it doesn't return anything. The reason is we didn't declare, I mean, we didn't write our write line function. So let's do that real quick. Let's write our write line. I'm just going to copy this one up above, and I'm going to paste it over here. And I'm going to remove all of this. Well, I also still have to typecast. I forget, because it's an integer. So it returns an integer. So int to string, and then IP. Pass an IP in there, run that, and we get 5. So if we wanted, just for demonstration purposes, wanted to get the value of C, for instance, notice that ice cream has two C's. What it's going to do is actually going to return the value of the first C. So that'll be position 6. So let's give it a C, and then run that, and then as you can see, it returns 6, right? So, and you don't have to just use a character. You can use say cream, and if you pass in cream, it'll actually give you the value of this index here, the first letter of your substring. So that'll be, this is position 6, 7, 8, 9. It'll be position 9. Let's run that, and there we go. It's position 9. I hope you guys understand. That's basically how you use the position function. Moving on, let's get to use delete to remove unwanted text. I'm gonna copy this over here. I'm gonna paste it here. To delete unwanted text, you just use delete. So let's just say we're using SSTR2, and I'm just obviously re-declaring these variables over and over again, but that's just to demonstrate. And we didn't have to do that. We could have just used the one here. We could have just used the one here, but I want to re-declare it just so that it's easier for us to read. So let's use delete. Delete, basically, you don't have to, it doesn't return anything. It just manipulates the string directly, right? So if, say, we wanted to delete, okay, first of all, what does it take, right? Delete takes in the string and the index and the count. It takes in 3 parameters. It takes in the string, the index, where you want to start deleting from, and how many characters you want to delete. So it takes in the string, the index from which you want to start, and then the count. Count meaning how many characters you want to delete inside of this delete function from your string. So we're gonna pass in the first parameter, which is the string, which is sstr2. Second variable is the index, and we wanna, let's say we wanna say we wanna remove 8, right? So we're gonna delete from the first string character, which is at position 1, and then we want to, how many letters do we want to delete, or how many elements inside of the string do we want to delete? We want to delete 1, 2, 3, and also the space. So we're going to delete 4, right? So now let's write line, and then we're going to pass in sstr2, and notice that I didn't put in my line break. Just going to pass it over here. Then let's run that, and then there we go. It returns ice cream. Do you guys see why that is? The reason is we have 8 ice cream as a string. We decided to delete. What do we delete from? Deleting from the actual str2. This string is what we pass into the delete function. And then we're deleting from position 1 all the way to position 4. Meaning if we delete ATE and space, what's remaining is ice cream. I'll do another demonstration. If we wanted to delete only the ice part of the string, it'll be, we would start, our index would start from position 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We would start from position 5 and we would delete position 5, 6, 7, 8. That's 4 characters. So I would start it from 5 and then we're deleting only 4 characters still, so that we're only left with 8 cream, right? So let's run that. Okay, we have a problem. Okay, can't run because I didn't close this. You need to close your programs before you run new ones, okay? And then there we go, 8 cream. Basically, that's what we intended to do. Moving on, let's insert elements into a string, right? So we're going to do this. I'm going to have another line break here. All right, so now, how do we insert strings? How do we insert substrings into strings? For instance, let's maybe declare str2, but then this time we'll say Romeo fish, for instance. So maybe we want to have a variable called substring, right? Substring, and we'll say that's a string. I just declared substring here at the top. Coming back down, we want to basically have substring, maybe substring be set to buys. Romeo buys fish, okay? And we want to insert the substring into the string 2, right? So we want to insert this into this in the middle of it. So how can we do that? Okay, so it's very simple. Let's just run the function insert. As you can see, it takes in the first parameter is the string. The second parameter is the first parameter is a substring. The second parameter is the actual string. And then the third parameter is the index at which position you want to insert that substring. So we're going to click on it. There we go. I'm just going to, so that we don't forget, it takes in the substring, it takes in the string, and then it takes in the index. All right. So first parameter, the substring, what is it? It's substring. We wrote it as substring. We declared it as substring, I meant to say. The second parameter is string, so we're going to say sstr2. We have that, and then the index at which we want to insert the substring. We count from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, at 7 because we want to include the space, right? So we're going to say from position 7, right? And there's a little caveat at this because you're going to realize something. Let's just print out the string, right? Right line, and we're gonna print out sstr2. So let's run that. There we go. So here it is. So it says Romeo buys fish, but there's no space in between, so we want to have to add a space. So we can just change this and say substring, we just add a space after the buys and it'll make sense. But hey, you know what? Because we're already here, let's add another insert, and we're gonna say copy, we're gonna paste it here, we're gonna change the value of str2, right? We're gonna add in a substring, which is a space, add a space, and then we're gonna add it at which position? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 at position 11. Because now buys is now part of, I included buys because now we're counting substring in the actual str2. That may be a little complicated if you guys don't understand what I mean, but just give it a try and actually do the counting the way I did it, and you actually understand what I'm talking about. Okay, guys? So we're moving on. So how do we use lowercase and uppercase? And in some exams, they may ask you to use lowercase and uppercase. Okay, put something there. Didn't intend on doing that. Just gonna have a sip of coffee. Awesome. Okay, so how do we deal with lowercase and uppercase? So I'm just gonna have SSTR here. I'm gonna use this, and I'm gonna say that this is equals to a normal word, right? So a normal word. Okay, I didn't do that properly. Oh, a normal sentence, I meant to say. So we have a normal sentence. As you can see, one letter is uppercase and the rest are lowercase. So say we wanted to make everything uppercase. How do we do that? It's actually pretty easy, right? I'm not going to declare another variable. What I'm going to do is that I'm just going to use the right line function, and I'm just going to use the uppercase function inside of it. So let's print out SSTR as uppercase. Right line. And then inside of here, I'm just going to use a function called uppercase. And then I'm just going to pass in str. So basically, uppercase is what you need. And we didn't even have to do that like that. So, but I'll show you another way of doing it. So now you can see a normal sentence is now in uppercases. So we didn't have to do this. I could just remove this and just print out str right here. I could have just said uppercase right here. It really is up to you guys and your requirements for your programs in your examinations and your tests. So now you can see a normal sentence is printed right there. So how do we use now normal lowercase? Say that this was all caps, right? If this is all caps and we wanted to lowercase it, we could just say lowercase. There we go. And we just print that out. Now everything is in lowercase. A normal sentence is lowercase. Very simple, guys. Let's move forward. Concatenate, we did that. Trim. Trim is a very simple function. What trim does is that it just removes the spaces in between. So I'm just going to re-declare this str. Say we have str being a normal sentence, and maybe it has a lot of spaces in on the side of it, right? So I'm just going to print it. I just want you to see what it looks like first. See, a normal sentence has spaces on the sides of it, right? It has spaces on the left and on the right. If we wanted to remove those spaces before we can start dealing with the string to begin with, it's very simple. We can just use the function trim. Just use trim and pass in the string in here, and this string will now be trimmed off. Now it's a normal sentence without the spaces in between. And like I said, it's a function. You could use it anywhere. I could have just used it also in the right line here. SSTR. What am I doing? There we go. Could have used it here as well. Same thing. Nothing changes. Now let's go over to string replace. Okay, that's the last function for the day. String replace. So what string replace actually does is that it replaces something inside of a string, right? If you have a string, for example, let's say we have a str, let's say it's equals to a good day, right? Let's say it's a good day. The string we have is initialized as a good day, right? Say we wanted to change it. We wanted to replace good with bad, for instance. What you can do is that based off of what we learned here, you can use delete, remove a good, and then after that we can change it again and add bad by using the insert function. But that's, I mean, we could do that, but there's an easier way of doing this, and string replace is that particular thing. So what we can do here is that we can say string replace. If I add it, you'll see that there's a problem. Our next line gets has problems. So the reason for that, and you can see here now, the compiler is complaining, or our IDE rather is complaining. It says there is no overloaded version of string replace that can be called with these arguments. The reason is, if I go here and press Control Space, it will tell you that this is a function, but it returns string. It returns a string. So let's just say final string, just to declare a random string name. Final string replaced with a string. That's the function, the variable name that I went with. So instead of this, let's just add this final string replaced, and we set it to string replace. Now we can call this function, right, without our IDE complaining about it. Now it's complaining because there's nothing passed in here. So now let's just check what it requires. It requires the string that we're dealing with, which is str in this case, and then second parameter requires the old pattern, which, what do we want to replace? It's the actual word good. And then what's the new pattern? The new pattern is the actual word that we want to replace it with, which is bad, right? And then lastly, it takes in flags. I'll explain what flags are in a minute. Let's just deal with these three parameters first, and I'm going to write them here. So it takes in a string, it takes in the old, what is it called? Okay, I made a mistake now. All right, yeah, old pattern. All right, great. Old pattern, and then it takes in the new pattern, and then it takes in flags. Okay, so let's write our string. So that's SSTR, and then our old pattern would be good. Checks in a string called good. New pattern is the string we want to replace it with, which is good. Which is bad. And then remember, I said it also takes in another parameter, which are flags. So flags, it takes it in a form of an array, right? So we're gonna say declare an array right here, and we're gonna pass in our flags inside of here. You don't have to pass in any flags. You can just run this and it will run, right? The program will run. Let's just print things here. I'm just gonna try and separate some lines here so that we can see properly. So after the last right line break, so I'm gonna run this. So okay, that's good. So now let's print out what we have as a final string replace, right? Right line, and we're gonna final string replace. So we can run this. Let's run this, and there we go. A bad day is what's printed to our console. Before it was a good day, now it's a bad day, right? So we succeeded in doing that. Now let me just explain flags for a second. So flags, if I go in here and say Control Space, you will see something. It says RF replace all, RF ignore case. These are the most important ones. So RF replace all means that if I have a good day, what's gonna happen if I run this like this without any flags is that it's only going to replace the first good. Let me demonstrate that. Do you see? It only replaces the first one. It says a bad, good, good day. However, if you wanted that good be replaced with bad for all instances of good, or where good is shown in the string, what we do now is we call that flag that we spoke about replace all. Replace all, and if I run this now, you'll see here a bad, bad, bad day, right? So another flag is, made a mistake, ignore case. So if you ignore case, what that essentially means is that if you have different uppercases or lowercase words, for example, maybe this is a good day, and we're only have it as good here. What's gonna happen is that it's only going to replace the good that are actually exactly type identical to the ones in the actual string if I don't have this flag here. However, if I do add the flag, then it doesn't care about the cases. It'll just replace every instance of good. It doesn't care whether it's good, uppercase, lowercase. It all puts them in the same category and it replaces everything. Right, you understand? So just to run that one last time. As you can see, we have a bad, bad, bad day. Now everything works as expected. So guys, that's the end of the video. Thank you very much for tuning in. Please like and subscribe, and I'll see you in another video. Okay, peace out.